Shishi, thank you for doing this talk with me. First of all, it's incredibly brave of you to do it with me. And just wanted to say that you're such a credit to your mum, and she would be so proud of you. And this entire website, Finding Light Through Loss, is in schus of your mum's neshama, Shalom Mispas Ephraim B'Tselel. But especially, I want to dedicate this talk to her because I think this would make her especially proud. And I wanted to just give context to people listening or watching this talk that you actually are my niece. You turned 17 a few days ago. Happy birthday. We're going to talk about that. And one of the reasons, or the reason that I asked you to do this talk, is that this has been the toughest year of your life, no doubt. You lost your incredible mother like just 9 months ago, or my sister. And even though you're still early on in your journey, you're still in the first year, I thought this would be so helpful for other teens who've lost a parent to listen to, because first of all, you're very real about your journey, which I think is very helpful for people to listen to and recognize, yeah, I've also gone through that. Even though everybody's journey is personal, they're going to recognize and think that's normal. And also because you have an incredible amount of wisdom and perspective, which just kind of floors me. And so I expect this to actually be part one of a conversation that we'll pick up again at a later stage. But I first wanted to say thanks for doing this, Shishi.
No, of course. Thank you so much for letting me do this and be able to. I'm excited.
Okay, great. So let's see where this goes. Just so people should know, Shishi has no idea what I'm going to ask her. She said that she was very happy. A spontaneous conversation. And so some questions, as I've said to Shishi, if they're too difficult or she doesn't want to answer them, she must just say not for right now. So firstly, I wanted to ask you, how was it celebrating your first birthday without your mom? Because that's a big milestone, you know?
Yeah. So celebrating my first birthday, I think the 2 weeks coming up to my birthday, it was more very daunting. And it was for me, it was very scary because my birthday's in December. So that means and in my family, I'm a December baby. So that means I'm the last birthday in my family. So that means that, and for my family, I was going to be the first one, the last one in my family that would turn 17. It would be the first year that it would be the first time my mom would never be there for any of our, the thing is I've got a few siblings and everything. And for them, they'd all turned, and I was going to be the last one to turn a new age without my mom being there. And that was the scary for me. So I was going to be 17 and my mom was never, my mom was, that means I'm going to be 18 and I'm going to be 19 and my mom's never going to be there for me. So that was quite daunting. So I was quite scared for my birthday. But to tell you the truth, when it did come, and actually really wasn't it was actually really nice, and everyone was so there for me. I've got my mom's best friend. She made a party for me, and I was there with our friends, and they were very understanding and very there for me. And it was I had we went out for supper, and when it got too much for me, I did get a bit triggering for me. I went home and I was able to swim with my family, and it was just it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. And my mom always made it all my birthday about me, which scared me a bit because she always made it so special for me, and she was the one who made it my birthday. So without her being there, it was scary, but it really wasn't that bad, and I believe that she was holding me.
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful. And I think that's such an important point, which we'll probably speak to, is that sometimes you have an expectation, almost, as you say, the anticipation leading up to the day that it's going to be a certain way. And then the actual day wasn't and I could just see from some of the pictures, and of course, pictures don't tell the full story of all the emotions you went through. You say at times it's too much, but you seem to really, really enjoy parts of that. And I think that that's beautiful and that's very hopeful. And it's something that I think we'll probably talk about more, because there's so many times in this journey and these 9 months which have been so hard that you've been happy, and you've looked to me like a teenager, 16-year-old teenager who's actually enjoying moments of your life. And I think that that's so important,
Yeah, so, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's my mom would always say, it's holding the good and the bad together. You can't just have one or the other. You have to hold both together.
Exactly. And that there's place for both in our hearts, right? And I love that you said your mom, because that's something I wanted to speak to you about, and I'm going to ask you that question a little bit later, but I know there's so much that your mom, well, let's talk about that now. Tell us a little bit about your mom, why she was such a special mom. because I know there was also so much that she taught you guys, that, you know,
Yeah.
she was herself a social worker, someone who helped people, and she gave you so many of the tools that you're using now to get through this period. So why was she such a special mom? I mean, I know you can't tell us everything, but tell us a little
Yeah.
bit.
Well, my mom always was someone like who like she was a very, very selfless person.
Yes.
Like she always did things for others, and she always looked after others. Like there's like just things that come to her mind. Like I don't know, she would always like make sure like in certain situations that like if I came home and I was upset with someone, she would always say, look at their perspective. Like why would they be upset for the situation? Like she was always someone who didn't look just into herself. She looked out of herself. And
Beautiful.
with being like a mom, like she was always like looking out for me, looking out for each of our siblings, and like not just making it about her, making it about everyone else in the room. And she was just like, she really like embodied that, and she like was just like very, very like like that was a big like point for me.
Beautiful. But that's such an important lesson when you said that, like, you'd come home and instead of just a parent wants to just protect their child and everybody who hurts their child is the baddie, she was teaching you something about looking into somebody else's reality, and then like learning that it's okay, things might be going on. It's a beautiful lesson, that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's been helpful to you because, and we'll come to this, but I'm sure when you're going through grief, there are so many people around you who are not showing up like you'd like them to, who are saying the wrong things, who are being insensitive. And I'm sure, I know even for me, that's been a difficult part of grief. And I'm sure that's helping you, you know, kind of maybe that's helped you navigate that.
Yeah.
Yes. So Shishi, I wanted to ask you, when your mom was first diagnosed with cancer, and during it was almost, I think, about a 2.5-year battle with cancer. At times she was in remission for a lot of that time and doing well, but obviously that's something that you had to deal with, the fact that your mom had cancer. How did you deal with that emotionally as a young person when kind of knowing that your mom had cancer?
Well, when my mom first was diagnosed, she was first diagnosed with breast cancer. So that was like 2 years ago around. So that was like the beginning.
Yes.
And I was like I was younger then. And a big thing that my mom did do is she always made the house not a cancer home. But like at the same time, like she would come home and she would like still after her chemotherapy, she would still be tired and it would still, it would be really hard. The things my mom was very like, she made it not a cancer home. So like it wasn't like in that sense, it wasn't so hard for me about that. Like when this cancer, the second one that when we did get to her brain, that was harder because she was much more sick and she wasn't able to be as strong for me. But when for the first cancer, she was very, very strong for me. So it was like much easier, and I was younger, so I think a lot of things did go over my head. But for this one, like for this cancer now, like I think it was like a bit of a shock for me because my mom was always so strong for me, and to like see her not like being able to be there for me. Like the one time I went to like the hospital, and it was like I was visiting her, and this was like a few weeks before she passed away, and I just like I remember just sitting next to her bed and she was asleep, and I just like remember like she woke up and like she was just very out of it, and she was never like that was the first time seeing her like so vulnerable. Like she would always like show like a strong face, and like so it was like very hard to like be able like to like see like another side of my mom because she was always so strong for her kids.
Yes. And I know that was so difficult because the end when was so sudden and unexpected, because even though your mom had been dealing with cancer, she'd been doing well with it. And then especially when she got the leptomeningeal diagnosis, which was 10 days before she passed, it was so quick and so sudden. And for all of us, it was pretty traumatic, and for sure for you and your siblings. And so I wanted to ask you about that, because when she came home 2 days before she passed away, which I think was very, very important for you guys. And I wanted to know if you could share anything about those kind of last 48 hours and why it was so important for you that you had that time with her at home.
Yeah. So I think that was a huge bracha for us to be able to have her at home. I think she like knew it was like her last, she was so like out of it, but I think she knew she didn't have long, and she just wanted to have that one Shabbos at home because she came home for the Shabbos. And I think it was just so special for her, like to have her home. Like I just like remember our siblings could go and just sit next to her bed and just talk to her, and she was even like in her last moment she was making us laugh, and she was just saying like the best things. And like I remember just like her last like words, like she was like trying to tell me, she was like, Shishi, I need to tell you something. And then like I came close to her, and then like she just like she whispered and I couldn't even hear what she said. And it's like you tried to hear her last words, and it's just like I couldn't. But there were like some last words I remember, and she just like said like, for me it's like she always like believed in me, and she always like, I'm like someone who's like pretty much a perfectionist. But like she always like said like Hashem, like her last like her words like I'll keep on like remembering it. It's like Hashem doesn't want us to be perfect. He just like wants our hearts. And that was like very special like words for me. And like I've like stacked like I've like kept them in my mind. But just like being there like next to my mom and just like seeing like her calling us in and just be able to sit there and like even like in the last moments and she couldn't even like speak and she was just like there, like just to be able to be like next to her and just to speak to her and just to like, it was just like so special. And I feel like, yeah, it was just like so incredible to be able to like be there like next to her.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and also for me, I could just see for you guys and for me how precious it was, because even though we knew that she was dying, the person you love most in the world is dying and in pain. The fact that you get to spend that time with her, as you say, and hold her and be close to her is so precious, you know. And that's always you wanted. She wanted to be with you guys, and I just wanted to that those words that she said to you, which is also so your mom, even though it happened so quick and she was so ill in her final days, she still managed to, with most of the people she loved, like impart something to them that they could keep and take away for themselves. And I just love that she was so medicated, and you know, we were giving her morphine, and managed to say the perfect thing to you, which was, you know, you don't have to be perfect. Hashem just wants your heart. And that's such a beautiful thing for you to take with you, as you said, because it's what you needed to hear, which is beautiful. And people don't always have that opportunity to hear that right thing. But, you know, but there's sometimes something precious along the way that gets said that we kind of hold in our hearts. And you had that, which is beautiful.
Yeah. It was also like hard though. Like I remember like the one night, I think it was that night that she had passed away. Like I went like to her door and like I just opened the door, and like in a sense I knew this could be the last time I ever say goodnight to my mom, and like the last time I ever say like I love you. And that was at the same time also like very, very hard. Like I remember it like so clearly. Like I remember opening the door and just being like I love you. Like I must have said it like 100 times. I was just like I love you, good night. I didn't want to close that door because I didn't know if I'm ever going to get a chance to do that again.
My gosh, just to think you have to go through that, I was saying at the age of 16, like in those emotions. And I think it's important you point out, because those 48 hours were probably the hardest hours, you know, time of your life. But there was also, again, comfort and beauty in them, you know, good moments in them. It just shows how, as you said before, your mom said, she taught a lot about this, how you can hold both, like the deepest pain and the greatest joy all in one. So there was a lot of difficult moments as well. So Shishi, another thing about just the last question I wanted to ask you about those kind of last days is that when your mum had to come home, it was obviously a big shock, and this happened very quickly. And I know for you and your siblings, you were shocked and you were almost angry that this fight was being stopped, because as far as you knew, your mom was fighting up until that point. We were all, you know, she was having treatment up until 3 days before she passed away. And so it was a shock of, what does it mean you're coming home? And then she did come home. And during those 48 hours, I was so touched hearing you. It was a very difficult thing for me to hear, but it was so beautiful to see you were all saying to your mom, you can let go, we'll be okay. You can let go, we'll be okay. What helped you go from, you have to carry on fighting, you can't come home, you have to have treatment, like you've got to fight this, to then being able to say to her, you can let go, you know, we'll be okay. Like what changed, what shifted? It was such a short time, you know?
Yeah.
For you.
Well, the thing is, I like trusted my mom, and I knew if this like she was fighting so hard, and I knew if she like knew she couldn't do it, then she couldn't do it. Like she was like the biggest fighter in the entire world. Like proper, she did things to like the topmost. So I knew if she couldn't do this, then like she couldn't do it. And for me to be able to say those words to her, like still, like how could I have? Like I was able to do it because I knew the amount like of pain like she was in. Like it was like unimaginable. Like I mean, morphine wasn't touching sides with her, and I just knew like I just wanted her to be like okay, and like I knew like the amount of pain she was in was like just like so tremendous, and it just like it brought me pain, and I just knew like as hard as this word to say, and like how like in a way like messed up they are to say, but like I just wanted my mom to be okay. So.
Beautiful. And it just speaks to like, you know, your mom taught so much about the wisdom and the kind of that's in every single person, no matter how young or old you are. So for me to see a child being able to say that, knowing this is the right thing for you, the right thing for all of us, even though it's the thing we don't want most in the world, to be able to say that in that moment just speaks to, you know, everything she taught about every human having what they need inside of them. That was beautiful. So Shishi, how did you find the shiva? Because so many people, even adults I speak to, find the shiva, they have mixed feelings. They often say there are parts of the shiva that are very helpful and very comforting, and there are parts that are very difficult because you don't want to sometimes see people and people act in ways that are not helpful. And, you know, the shiva can be very triggering for a lot of people. So how was it for you as a young person, the kind of shiva experience?
So for me, like, yeah, it was good and it was bad. I think maybe a bit more bad than good.
Let's be honest,
yeah.
Yeah.
I just like remember, I think we were saying, like, when you were like at our house, we were saying we need to put like rules up, like all words you're not allowed to say or something. Like some people say the wrong things as shiva. Like I just remember like someone was saying like how like they just like bring in their own stories because you're not really like, you don't really know what to do. Like, and I get that, like people when they come, they aren't comfortable and they just say like the wrong things. Like someone was saying, I remember, like it just like stands out to me. Someone was just saying how they were talking about their like, I don't know, great grandmother who had cancer, but like, but I'm just saying, and like all different like things, and I'm saying like, well, I'm 16 and my mom died at like, I don't know, she passed away so young, and like, I don't know, people are trying to relate to you, but it's like in a way, and then when people say to you they understand, they don't understand. Like a lot, like I heard that a lot in the show, and also the question everyone asks in the show is like, how are you doing? Like that's not the question you need right now.
Yes.
How do you think I'm doing? My mom passed away a few days ago.
Oh, yes.
And then, exactly. And if they hold your arm or they give you hugs and you just have no clue who this person is. But it's just, at the same time, it is like an incredible thing to have people come in because people do care. Like we had people giving us like months after meals. And it's just like to show the amount of people who care and like the community and everything. But at the same time, like some people do say some very stupid stuff.
Well, once I remember some of the things that was interesting to me because it's almost like a custom law with Shiva that you're not supposed to talk until let the person talk, you know, let the person who's sitting Shiva talk. But some people would come and just sit in front of you and you're very young, you don't know them and just kind of stare at you, waiting for you to open the conversation, which I used to feel was very awkward for you. It was awkward for me as an adult, but for you being so young, like having people just sit there and stare at you was also, what was there anything that was helpful for you during the Shiva that people would do?
I liked it a lot when people like, I don't know, when people like drop something off like for me, not like drop it off, but like just like even like just a note. A lot of people to drop me off notes. Like my school actually wrote me, like a few of the girls, like a lot of the girls wrote me notes, and just to be able to like have that, like I personally don't like it when when someone's like staring at your face and you just don't know what to say back to them. Like there's not too much you can say. But like people to drop me off like notes, which I really appreciated. I did like, as you know, like I spoke at Shiva and like I like beautifully. I really, really like that. For me was like a big thing. Like I don't know if that like helped me, like to be able to like write that speech that I wrote was also very, very helpful for me. And to be able to say it and like to get it out, like to like say like how incredible my mom was and like the pain like I'm going through and everything, and for people to be able to hear that, and it's like that was like a big help for me.
Did you find it helpful when people came and shared things about your mom? Because that was something I found helpful. People who knew her well, who'd come and share stories, some of which I didn't know, you know? Yeah.
So for me, not lots of people actually, I think, shared stories with me. I think people got very, very awkwarded out when they were like around me. Yeah. So not lots of people shared stories with me, but the one or two that they did, like I really did appreciate.
So just like for people who might be listening to this and thinking, do you think that it is helpful? Would you have liked that if people did do that with you more, came and shared stories of your mother with you? Would that have been helpful?
Yeah, 100%. I think it would have been.
Yeah, because I think people do get intimidated with a child, like when there's a loss and there's children, they don't quite know how to relate to them. And I think it's almost the same as relating to an adult. I mean, you guys essentially are adults, and sharing, I know for me that was something that was really helpful. So Shishi, I know that, so I know everyone will say, and your mum for sure taught you, that feelings, while incredibly uncomfortable, are normal. And that there's kind of a range of feelings that we always kind of go through, but that you've been through in the past 9 months, which I'm sure have been way more intense than at any other period of your life. And I wanted to I wanted to know if you'd share with us like a little bit about some of the feelings that have come up for you that you've had to kind of grapple with, that maybe have
Yeah.
been different to your kind of teenage life before
Yeah.
or more.
So, yeah. So with yeah. So in the beginning when my mom passed away, I would I don't know, it's not something you think about, but I'm a very emotional person. So I was thinking when my mom passed away, I'm just gonna be a mess, I'm gonna be crying and crying, and that's what I was expecting. But what
Yes.
actually happened was I was very numb. I didn't cry a lot, and I kept on judging myself for that. I was like, why am I not crying? What's wrong with me? Am I a psycho? What's wrong with me? Why am I not crying? But people sat me down and they told me, no, it's okay. These are normal
Correct.
feelings. It's 100% okay. I was just expecting all those tears to come out. But in a way,
Yes.
if you do look it up on grief, there is different steps to how grief goes. Those steps don't have to be in order. Those steps can
Yes.
be almost around this second, this hour, this moment. That's how
Yes.
for me, I would go through complete sad. I'd be very, very sad at one point, but then an hour later, I was laughing at my friends, during this process.
Yes.
It's being able to I'll be okay with all those feelings and not to judge them. That's what
Yes.
I've learned.
Absolutely. And I think that that's such an important thing because I think a lot of me too, I also experienced what you're talking about. And I know some of your siblings mentioned that kind of numbness. And in a way it can frighten you and you think, what's wrong with me? Why can't I feel? And I think it's, to me, the psychological, it's a protective mechanism because it's almost too much to take in. And so the mind kind of numbs you. It's a bit of what they call the denial process, but it's actually there to protect you because it's actually too much for your being to take in all at once. And then, as you say, especially if you're kind of in a healthy place of grief, you have these moments where the kind of doors open and those emotions come out. And then when it's a bit much, it kind of goes back in. But those moments are
Yeah.
very important when you can actually feel the feelings, they're really important. So, what about, just out of interest, anger? Because they say that anger's a big one. It can be anger at anything. It can be at God, at the person who died, at other people. Have you experienced that, just out of interest?
Yeah. So I didn't experience this as much as I've looked up things as much as other people, but I think I took mine out mainly at my dad.
Yes.
Sorry, Dad. Sorry. But
Yes.
the thing is, because now I have when I was good, I only have my dad now, so it's one less parent. So when anything goes wrong, it's all on him, and a lot was going wrong this year. So I think I
Yes.
took a lot of anger out on him.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, that's such a normal process. It's part of what, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's stages is anger. That's just something that we kind of go through, and it's good to go through it, So hopefully your dad has survived that. So anything that, and you really did share, but is there anything else that your mom taught you that you feel has helped you and your siblings through this period? Anything that she kind of imparted to you guys?
She's taught us so much, but I think a big thing was just how I don't know, ain't on Malvado, that, which means only much just trusting Hashem, this is the right process for us, with me and my siblings, it could be the worst thing that's happening, but we just no, this is what's supposed to be going on. And that's a thing I don't know, for me that was a big thing. When I don't know, someone in my family says how can this be happening? It's look, you're doing it, you're managing, you've managed, I don't know, even when it was 2 months, you've managed 2 months, you can do another 2 months, whatever it is. It's you're you've got what you need, and you can then she that was a big thing for her.
And she really did believe in that, because we spoke a lot about that even when she first got diagnosed, and her seeing that she almost needed a deeper level of trust in the fact that, because the first thing when she got diagnosed was my children. That's the first thing she called me and said, my kids, too. And we were had that conversation, and it was something that she really did believe in, because even in the days when she was dying and we had our conversations, part of what she said is, she said, I know that they'll be okay. I know that they have she had such faith in you guys. And so that's a huge thing to impart to you. I know that she gifted you. So what about friends? This must be tricky, as I'm sure, I know you have an amazing friends, and of course, they're going to be there for you as much as they can be. But as you said, no one can understand if you haven't been through this. What's been the hardest or trickiest thing for you to navigate, or that you think other teens going through this might navigate with their friends?
So, like, my friends, yeah, as like you're saying, like, they're most like incredible, like they really have been there for me, and they really wanted to be there for me. But in a way, like, they're never ever going to be able to like understand what I'm going through, and I would never want them to be able to understand. Everyone, even like my own siblings, like we each go through like our own processes. Like, I don't understand what my siblings are going through, but in a way, like, we kind of can relate to each other. But, like, my friends can't in a way relate to me so much. So like often like in the beginning, like I felt like they would send me a message, and sometimes like yeah, and I would like reply, but like not like when it comes like a few months later, and like I'm coming to school and I look like I'm so okay, but then I'm going home and my mom's not there. They like, in a way, like I know they don't forget, and I know they're 100% no, but like in a way, like they do, like it seems like they forget. Like I know they don't, but like when it becomes like a few months later and I'm not getting that like how you doing message, it's like just like it's like hard.
Yes.
It's like,
Yes.
yeah.
So I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about, like, if I was a friend, like, I wouldn't know, do I bring it up? Because this person looks like they're sitting there in class and they're chatting and they're talking and they look normal. So, like, do you bring it up? Like, and could that bring them down in the moment? Or should you bring it up because the person wants you to know this is still a big thing in my life? This is still so. How would you like advise a friend to act like in this situation that could be helpful?
Well, for like other like teens who are going through like a grief process, I think like you need to like be open with like your friend group, like where you are in your process. Like I know in the beginning, like if my friends would have brought it up in a conversation when I was at school, like I would have just burst out crying, and I would have not appreciated
too
it
much
like, at all. Like it would have been like too much for me. Then like for me, like the word like mom was like a curse word, not in a bad way. It was just like that word, like my brain just like associated with like not like great. Like I've noticed like now, like I want my friends to bring it up, and I've told my friends that, and like I had a conversation with them like the other day. Like I want like I don't want the word like mom to be something like she doesn't like get to like I don't know, like talk to like about. Like I think you need to have that conversation with your friends and like let them know like where you are, and like if you're open to it, and like and for like yourself, like if yourself, like in a way, if you open it up, like if you make that comment about your mom, and like they like feel more like comfortable with it, and they like understand like where you are also, if you're not like open to have that actual conversation with them.
Yes, so you can actually make it a little bit easier for them because you can also bring it up a little bit. But I think that's such a good point, is it's about communication, because, another thing that I know your mom taught and that I teach is about separate realities. We do live in our own little kind of bubbles of reality, and no one can get inside somebody else's. We think they should get us because we're good friends. And often with the people closest to us, we just feel that they should, that they know I've lost my mother, they know me, we're so close. But it just doesn't work that way, because we're all kind of having our own internal experience, and it's so rich and deep. The only person who can really understand fully is Hashem, and nobody else. And so that's why we do have to communicate, because, people can't guess kind of what's going on in your mind and heart. So yeah, and I think that's really, really nice kind of advice for people. Kind of let them know where you're at, because you'll need different things at different stages. That's what I hear you saying.
Yeah.
So how about school? How did you manage, firstly, going back to school? And secondly, the pressures of this year. I know you just wrote exams. I'm really glad you finished now. You've just broken up. But without having your mom to support you, because going through school and through exams is difficult enough with having your mom around, but without her. So how did you navigate getting back into school, normal life, so soon after this enormous loss?
Yeah. So going back to school is quite scary. I don't know if like other teenagers can like see with me, but like, when you go back to that school, it's like everyone's like eyes are on you, and it's just like, well, I don't know if they really are or if it just feels that way. But like it just feels like everyone
sure
gives you that look and puts that hand on your shoulder, and it's just like, how are you? And you just like you don't want to like answer that question right now. But yeah, so going back to school really was hard. But I think like it's I kept on saying, why do I need to go back to school? Like I didn't want to go back. It was just so daunting for me. But
yes,
it's just like you have to, like, in a way, you just have to, like, even though like your life right now is so not, it's like the opposite of normal. Your life's not going to go back to normal. You have to start a new reality. That doesn't mean like you have to like stop how everything was. Like you still have to go back to school, and it's going to be hard. And it's going to be different. But that doesn't mean like you can't, like you mustn't go back, and it doesn't mean you can't do it. So like it was like hard, like going back, but like I'm like I did do it. Like I'm here to show. I went back to school, and with exams, for me, exams stress me out a lot, and I think it does for most people. But the main thing was like don't put your expectation, like don't like try like go for the high mark. Just like I think like a goal, like if you just lost your mom, I think your goal needs to be like just to write that exam. Do like what you need, like you can do. And if writing that exam is way too hard, then you need to have a conversation with your parents and with your principal. But just being able to write the exam, not even caring about the marks, not even asking the teacher what the mark was, because that doesn't matter. You wrote the exam, you wrote your name on that paper, you did it. You've done it. Like well done. Like even if you sat there and wrote absolute rubbish, at least like you wrote your name. And that was like for me, I got very stressed out, and I needed that like reminder very often. But like I'm proud I was able to do it, and it's like on the sheet of paper I have my name on like every single like square. So yeah,
incredible, and just like really well done to you, because I was speaking to Rav Nachman Seltzer, who's a very prolific author in the Jewish world, and about loss and grief, and he was saying to me that right now in the period where the Hatzalah team went in to deal with the 7th of October, and they were seeing everything going on around them. They were like kind of trying to save people while everything was happening. And he's written a book in 7 weeks about their stories. And when they told him one story that there was a soldier who they came across who had just kind of had an encounter with witnessing a terrorist and what they did. And he was like catatonic. He was almost paralyzed with like trauma of what he'd witnessed. And they knew from their training that the first thing they've got to do is get him to do something. Just do something, like get into action, because that's so important. Get him out of his state and get him. And so they gave him a task to do, which almost seemed cruel in his state, but that was what they'd been trained to do. And I was saying that I'd seen that Avram, like they say, there's a pasuk when he lost Sarah, he cried. It was like such deep loss. And then he got up and he went to do chesed. And it was, and the reason that they explain is because that's what kind of you need to do. You need to kind of learn to, and what I kind of almost heard you say is that you're almost learning to take baby steps to live your life without this person. How do I go to school without this person? And you almost have to teach you. There's almost like a learning of how to do that, which is difficult, just if you think about a toddler who's left at school the first time. I know my kids didn't like it at all, but you're almost like relearning how to be in the world without this person. And you've got to kind of step into that space. Otherwise, you're almost like trying to stick to a reality that no longer exists, So, so really well done for kind of doing that, Shishi, and kind of amazing. So this is another question, triggers, right? You mentioned the word triggers, and this is, we're getting near to the end, but we've spoken about this quite a lot, like over the last 9 months. And it's good for people to understand because firstly, it's normal for things to bring up memories. If this person was in your life in every single way, then every kind of reminder of that is just a testament, almost triggers to how much they were a part of your life. They weren't just in a little part, they were in every part. So much brings up those memories, right? And it hurts because in place of kind of the love and the interaction you'd have, there's now not that, so that's why it hurts so much. So I wanted to like ask you about triggers, like what kinds of things are like triggers for you, or is just everything a trigger for you?
So it's weird. Like triggers can be like the most strangest things like ever. It's not like just like set. It's like her bracelet. It could be like the weirdest things. Like like what comes to me, like my mom loved bubblegum chewing gum, like this specific bubblegum chewing gum in South Africa. And she like had it in her bag like 24/7. It was like her favorite thing. And I noticed like the one time like someone gave me like a piece of chewing gum and like I started chewing and I just like couldn't do it. Like I just took it out and not anyone has ever offered me that chewing gum, which is like it's kind of like a like known chewing gum. They were like offered it to me. I just like I can't do it. It's just like too much of a reminder because it was like her favorite, and it's actually not like so like nice. It's not like the best chewing gum. It was like her favorite, so I just like I noticed like I can't have it, and it's like a weird thing. It's like it's just chewing gum, but like it just like reminds me so much of it. It's like a weird thing that I also like have noticed like in the beginning when I like because we were talking about exams, like the word mom was like in my one paper like of like in like different type of like examples, like it had nothing to do with like the word mom. It was just like your mom does this. And I can remember in the exam, like it would trigger me every single time I saw that word. Like these were in my June, July exams. This was just after my mom had passed away. Now I just wrote the exams again, and like I realized, like only afterwards I realized that the word mom was mentioned a few times. Like it didn't like the triggers get easier over time. Like in the beginning, it is very, very hard, and like the weirdest things can trigger you. Like even like things like not seeing my mom's bag on the table, which isn't like a trigger. Like it's more of like I didn't see my mom's bag and keys on the table. Like that would be a trigger for me when I came home from school, or like or whatever it is.
Oh gosh, that's triggering me right now. Just the thought of that. So it's interesting you're saying. So you're saying that they definitely have calmed down, which doesn't mean they're not there, but they're not there to the extent that they were. So you can see the kind of grief process and the healing process like that's happening. And it's interesting. I don't know if you found this with triggers, but for me, like sometimes you're like kind of you're in that process where it's definitely getting easier, and then something can come and just trigger you hugely, like just almost, and you're like, oh my, like it takes you almost by surprise, because sometimes we feel like we're in a place where that won't happen anymore, the degree of pain, you know, that it's going to lessen, but it doesn't work like that. It's not that linear journey where you can still be hit so strongly by something. But as you say, you can track your journey over time and see there's less of those moments and they're less intense, so that you can kind of see there is a healing process happening. Don't know if you felt that. Yeah.
No, yeah, definitely.
So I think it's important, just would you say, for teens to understand that it's okay to have triggers, because those are a sign of, you know, how much that you love that person and how much they were in your life. And that is something that does get better with time.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually was listening to a grief expert doing a course in grief and trauma. This is one of the beautiful things that your mum's, you know, still influencing and still kind of helping us, because we do things we wouldn't have done before. And they were talking about triggers and saying that a lot of people feel like you've got to just like avoid all triggers, like tell everyone not to trigger you and make sure, you know, put those keys on, do whatever you can just to make sure you don't get triggered. And they were saying like, no, of course we want to be sensitive to a person, but it has to be that you go and you find security in your internal world, that your internal world gets stronger and starts to heal, such as those things become less, rather than trying to change the whole outside world, you know, because that's often what people want to do.
And even like by changing like all those things, like I'm saying, like that person, as you said, like there's so much about them. Like I'm saying, if you like, they're probably like everything you could probably, if you had to find anything, you could probably associate it with them. So by trying to like get rid of it all, it's not really like, it doesn't really make sense, because there's just so like, then it's kind of limited in who that person was, because that person was like everywhere, if that makes sense.
Everywhere.
Like one or two things like you can try to put away, but like I'm saying, like that person was everywhere in your life. Like they were like your life. So like by trying to like, put away one of those two triggers, there's going to be so many more.
Yeah. And you know, I've heard people say that those triggers that kind of hurt you, there's a time when they actually bring up a beautiful memory for you. So they almost bring up a nice memory for you in time, rather than a painful memory, you know. And again, that's apparently part of the healing process, you know. So so Shishi, I guess anything else that you wanted to share or you feel would be helpful? I mean, we've covered a lot, so if there isn't, that's fine. But I just wanted to ask you if there was anything else that you wanted to share before we end this conversation.
I can't really think of anything right now.
Well, I think we covered a lot, and I just wanted to again say thank you so much, because I think you've said to me that you would have liked to hear from other teens. And that's one of the things that we want on this Finding Light Through Loss website, is that teens can come and listen to another teen, or listen to somebody who's got experience, and that is, you know, even if it's an adult, talking to a teen directly. So so thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and that's actually one thing like I'd like to discuss with you. Like every single time I would try like Google something to help me because I was feeling a certain way, there would be like nothing that would like come up. It would be like more like a parent trying to help a teenager. Be like, what can you do for your teenager? Or like things like that. There'd be nothing like, what can I do? If that makes sense. So I'm very excited for this website, because it sounds like something that like actually can speak to me, not like someone else.
Exactly. And just to say, anyone who's listening to this talk, there are other talks where Shishi and other young people have sent in questions, and a kind of experts in the field are going to be answering their questions directly. So, and if anybody else does have questions, please feel free to send them into the website, because we would like teens to have what's on their mind answered directly to them. So thanks, Shishi, and enjoy your
Thank,
shopping today.
thank you.